Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Is Iceland entering a new volcanic era? Cameron Brink carries number 6 Stanford in overtime as Cardinal hold off Washington 63-59. Wayne Kramer, late guitarist of rock band MC5, also leaves legacy of bringing music to prisons. Watkins scores 31 points and number 10 USC routs Arizona State 81-63 for third straight win. Ryan Grubb expected to be hired as offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, AP source says. Is Iceland entering a new volcanic era? BBC. Iceland is experiencing a period of volcanic activity on the Reykjanes Peninsula that could last for decades or even centuries. The country sits on the boundary between the Eurasian and North America tectonic plates, which are slowly pulling apart, creating a space for magma to flow up to the surface. The recent eruptions on the Reykjanes Peninsula have occurred after an 800-year gap, which is believed to be due to the tectonic plates going through periods of higher activity. Scientists expect a series of small eruptions to occur over the coming years and decades. Predicting when the eruptions will happen is a key concern for Iceland, as it could impact the town of Grindavik and a geothermal power plant. Scientists are tracking how the ground is inflating as magma rises from deep below and can now predict with more certainty when the magma will break through the surface. However, pinpointing exactly where an eruption will happen is more challenging, as the magma erupts through cracks or fissures that can be miles long. The eruptions could have major consequences for Iceland, as the most densely populated part of the country and key infrastructure are located in the affected area. Cameron Brink carries number 6 Stanford in overtime as Cardinal hold off Washington 63-59. Associated Press. Cameron Brink scored 7 of her 22 points in overtime, Courtney Ogden added 11 points, and number 6 Stanford held on to beat Washington 63-59 on Friday night. The Cardinal, 21-3, 10-2 Pac-12, remained tied for the lead in the conference, but it wasn't easy. Stanford led by 15 in the first half as Washington struggled to make any shots, then watched the Huskies chip away over the final 2.5 quarters to send the game to overtime. Wayne Kramer, late guitarist of rock band MC5, also leaves legacy of bringing music to prisons. Associated Press. Wayne Kramer, guitarist for revolutionary rock band the MC5, who died of pancreatic cancer last week, spent 2 years in prison for drug offenses. After his release, he co-founded a charity called Jail Guitar Doors USA, which provided musical instruments to prisoners and held concerts in which famous musicians would perform at prisons and then leave the instruments behind. The charity eventually distributed thousands of instruments and created a songwriting mentorship program that expanded nationwide, which has since been cited in research showing that introducing the arts to prisoners leads to fewer disciplinary actions, increased self-esteem, improved emotional health and reduced rates of recidivism. Watkins scores 31 points and number 10 USC routs Arizona State 81-63 for third straight win. Associated Press. Juju Watkins scored 25 of her 31 points over the final 2 quarters and number 10 Southern California routed Arizona State 81-63 on Friday night. Ryan Grubb expected to be hired as offensive coordinator for the Seahawks, AP source says. Associated Press. Ryan Grubb, the former offensive coordinator for the University of Washington Huskies, is expected to be hired as the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Grubb was initially expected to take the same role at the University of Alabama, but decided to stay in Seattle and join the Seahawks coaching staff. Grubb is known for leading one of the most dynamic offenses in college football during his time at Washington. He will now have the opportunity to work in the NFL for the first time. The unknown is how well his systems will translate from college to the pros. Fact check: Trump falsely claims he cooperated with the feds far more than Biden did. CNN. Former President Donald Trump falsely claimed that he cooperated more with federal authorities than President Joe Biden did over the classified documents they retained after leaving office. Trump made these claims at a speech to the National Rifle Association in Pennsylvania. He continued to say that Biden fought the feds all the way and that they never got what they wanted. However, facts show that Trump's claims of cooperation and Biden's fighting are completely untrue. It is clear that Trump did not cooperate nearly as much as Biden. The special counsel who investigated Biden's conduct confirmed that Biden cooperated with federal authorities in multiple ways. Trump, on the other hand, is facing charges of conspiracy to obstruct justice for allegedly trying to thwart the investigation into his conduct. Even prior to the investigation into Trump, he failed to comply with requests from the National Archives and Records Administration to return the documents in his possession and did not return all of them after receiving a grand jury subpoena. The special counsel also noted that there are serious aggravating facts in Trump's case that do not exist in Biden's case, such as Trump's obstruction and Biden's thorough cooperation. Weekend time schedule. Associated Press. This article lists the upcoming sports events for February 10th and 11th. The events include NBA games, NHL games, and college basketball games. The article also mentions golf and tennis tournaments taking place during this time. The Super Bowl 58 is scheduled for February 11th. Senegalese President Macky Sall defends delaying elections in exclusive interview as protests erupt nationwide. The Globe and Mail. Senegalese President Macky Sall has defended his decision to delay the country's elections, scheduled for February 25, claiming that the move was necessary to prevent further disorder. Protests have been taking place across the country in response to the delay. Sall has been the country's president since 2012 and is due to complete his second term on April 2. Even America's booming economy is turning toxic for Joe Biden. Telegraph. Despite positive economic indicators, Americans remain unconvinced that their economy is performing well, according to an opinion piece in The Telegraph. The U.S. can boast the strongest post-pandemic bounce back in the G7, with economic growth estimated at just shy of 5% in Q3 2021 and above 3% in Q4, while unemployment is low at 3.7% and wages continue to outpace inflation. However, sentiment about the economy among Americans remains negative. The Gallup Economic Confidence Index currently stands at -26, with 63% of respondents saying the economy is getting worse. The author suggests that negative feelings about the economy stem from concerns about the future, with Americans refusing to believe that economic growth will be sustained. Worries about long-term financial security and a sense of vulnerability to social and political threats, including wars abroad and messy politics at home, are contributing to the negative sentiment. The piece concludes that President Biden needs to convince voters that oversight of the economy will remain in capable hands for another 4 years. Bill Gates is leaving us behind on green tech, it could cost us dear. The Independent. Bill Gates, the Microsoft co-founder and philanthropist, has been drawing crowds at the recent COP28 climate talks in Dubai. Gates, who is now a committed green campaigner, has been praised for his knowledge and enthusiasm for climate solutions. One of the topics discussed was the importance of carbon dioxide removal, CDR, technologies, such as carbon capture, which could contribute significantly to global carbon reduction targets. Maddie Nolan scores 19, Colorado has 32 assists in 90-57 rout over Oregon. The Toronto Star. The number 4 Colorado Buffaloes defeated the Oregon Ducks 90-57 in a Pac-12 women's basketball game. Maddie Nolan scored 19 points, including 14 in the second quarter, to lead the Buffaloes to victory. Kindle Weta contributed 7 assists for the Buffaloes. Meanwhile, the number 6 Stanford Cardinal narrowly beat the Washington Huskies 63-59 in overtime. Cameron Brink scored 7 of her 22 points in overtime to secure the win for Stanford. Juju Watkins scored 31 points to lead number 10 USC to a dominant 81-63 victory over Arizona State. In addition, the number 17 Oregon State Beavers defeated the number 20 Utah Utes 58-44. Reagan Beers scored 17 points to lead the Beavers to victory. Tommy Hilfiger takes over the Oyster Bar in Grand Central for a joyous New York-centric fashion show. Yahoo! Tommy Hilfiger showcased his new collection at New York Fashion Week, bringing his brand back to the U.S., following a period of international focus. The designer staged a welcome home party at Grand Central's Oyster Bar, with Questlove as the DJ and John Batiste playing the melodica for guests. Hilfiger's collection featured roomy, 1990s-inspired pieces such as rugby shirts, varsity jackets and blazers. He also put some of his famous guests in pieces that were available to buy immediately. The U.S. market is now smaller than Hilfiger's international business. Women in Business, Lauren Runyon of Yellow Baba Pins Art Camp. Yahoo! Lauren Runyon accidentally became an entrepreneur when her daughter needed more attention. She had been teaching for 19 years when she decided to leave her job to look after her daughter, and started offering art classes in her home. After 3 years, Runyon says she had about 200 people a week coming through her house. Then COVID struck and she turned to virtual classes, eventually teaching children from around the U.S. She now runs Yellow Baba Pins Art Camp, which offers classes and groups for children, and she says the business buzzes with activity. Soccer stunners, Oxbridge boys, Kings girls pull off massive playoff upsets at Benjamin. Yahoo! Oxbridge Academy's boys and Kings Academy's girls pulled off stunning upsets at Benjamin in Florida on February 13. The unbeaten Benjamin girls team lost by penalty kicks to a King's Academy squad missing its best player, Lola Hathorn, while the Oxbridge boys team won 1-0. Oxbridge Academy now faces Holy Trinity Episcopal of Melbourne in the regional finals. 4 applicants vie for vacant family court judge position. Yahoo! 4 people are vying to be appointed to a family court judgeship in the 1st Judicial District, a post that became vacant with the retirement of Judge Sylvia Lamar. The Judicial Nominating Commission will interview the applicants later this month and forward one or more of the candidates to Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham for consideration. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite observer from the 6 Degrees world, the 6th Doctor, here to bring you another round of news updates. Let's dive right in. First up, it seems that Iceland is experiencing a new phase of volcanic activity. The country sits on the boundary of 2 tectonic plates, creating a space for magma to flow up to the surface. Scientists predict a series of small eruptions over the coming years and decades. This could have major consequences for Iceland, as the most densely populated areas and key infrastructure are located in the affected area. So, Iceland might just be entering a new volcanic era. In sports news, Cameron Brink led number 6 Stanford to a close victory against Washington in overtime. Meanwhile, Wayne Kramer, the late guitarist of the rock band MC5, left a legacy of bringing music to prisons through his charity, Jail Guitar Doors USA. Ryan Grubb, former offensive coordinator for the University of Washington Huskies, is expected to be hired by the Seattle Seahawks. And Juju Watkins scored an impressive 31 points as number 10 USC routed Arizona State. In political news, former President Donald Trump falsely claimed that he cooperated more with federal authorities than President Joe Biden did over the classified documents they retained after leaving office. However, facts show that Trump's claims are completely untrue. On the other hand, Senegalese President Macky Sall defended his decision to delay the country's elections, which has led to protests across the country. Turning to the economy, despite positive economic indicators, Americans remain unconvinced that their economy is performing well. Negative sentiment about the economy stems from concerns about the future and a sense of vulnerability to social and political threats. President Biden needs to convince voters that oversight of the economy will remain in capable hands for another 4 years. In other news, Bill Gates has been drawing crowds at the recent COP28 climate talks in Dubai, discussing the importance of carbon dioxide removal technologies. And fashion designer Tommy Hilfiger brought his brand back to the US with a New York-centric fashion show at Grand Central's Oyster Bar. Finally, Lauren Runyon accidentally became an entrepreneur when she started offering art classes in her home to look after her daughter. She now runs Yellow Baba Pin's Art Camp, which offers classes and groups for children. And in sports, Oxbridge Academy's boys and King's Academy's girls pulled off stunning upsets at Benjamin in Florida. That's all the news I have for you today, folks. As always, I'm eager to hear your thoughts and questions. What do you make of Iceland's potential new volcanic era? And how do you feel about Americans' negative sentiment towards the economy? Let's discuss. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.